All right, well, good morning. We're going to talk today about supporting your body through the holidays. Who could use some body support during the holidays? And y'all, there's always holidays, so we can look at this as Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, but right after that we have New Year's, then we have Valentine's, and then we have Easter, right? The holidays just keep on coming. So I'm going to be looking at sharing some information outside of the ZytoInsights, and then we're going to move into the ZytoInsights because it is a way to look at how our body is handling the life around us. So we're going to move into that today. Right now, I'm going to share what we're going to learn. All right, so you're going to learn how adaptable are you? And looking at the ZytoInsights scan, we'll look at an Adaptability Index. And we're going to look at what does your triad look like? We are multiple beings. We are an emotional being, we're a functional being, and we're an energetic being, or what I like to call spiritual, emotional, and physical. And when they're all connected, we are in sync. And when they're not, things feel a little bit more chaotic and stressful. And then we're going to talk about top products and services to support you. There are so many things that can help support our bodies, but what's going to support me today and what's going to support you today may be totally different. And so we want to look at what could really help you and not just me sharing about what's helping me. All right. And how you can do that is using a ZytoInsights scan. Now, I know a lot of you that are watching already have done your ZytoInsights scan. If you haven't, you're still going to learn information from today. And then you may decide that you want to have a ZytoInsights scan. And if so, just let me know and we can make that happen. All right. So, so often we ask ourselves questions like, why do I feel this way? Did anybody wake up this morning and be like, why do I feel this way, right? Or what's wrong with me? Or am I sick? Okay, and believe me when I say I am a why kind of person. I have been asking the question why since I started talking, right? But one thing I've learned on my health and wellness journey is that why doesn't always get me to the solution that I need at that moment. All right. So it often leads me down what I call the normal road, because truthfully, many of our symptoms today are just that. They're normal. It's what everyone else has. And then often what the doctor can't diagnose. Okay. Until it goes through this process, like the doctors say, it's just normal. It's just normal. And then they'll be like, oh, look, you've got this, this, and this now. Now we can give you a diagnosis. I don't know about you, but I kind of want to beat the diagnosis point. There are symptoms that are telling us things. And today's symptoms are just normal. And I want to get down to the cause, the root cause. So let's simply look at the signs that our bodies are giving us as our bodies are stressed. Okay, that is the easiest way to put it. Our body is stressed, and then we can move from there. So here's the thing. Stress is the natural response to stressors. That is just our body doing what it was created to do. And we have this awesome autonomic nervous system. And in our brainstem, so I don't know if there's a little marker here, it is. Right here in our brainstem, we have this alarm. It's called Neuroception. So you've probably heard of perception and proprioception, but this is neuroception. Neuroception is our nervous system and what it's perceiving. And it's our threat detector. And it tells our body whether we are safe, whether we are in danger, or if there could be a stressor that could be life-threatening. All right. Now, here's the thing about stressors. There's a lot of them, okay? Stressors can be positive. So let's think about getting married, wedding day. That can be stressful, right? But it's a good stress. Having a baby, that can be stressful, but guess what? It can be a good stress, right? Going on vacation, getting all ready, that can be stressful, but it can be positive stress. So I want you to know that all stressors are not necessarily bad. They're just putting stress on the body. Now, there's also what we call eustress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, which is like exercise. And exercises, y'all, a lot of times we hear that word and we're thinking going for a run. Exercises are any action that is done to improve your health or help you to grow. This could be spiritually, this could be emotionally, this could be physically. I know that when I was teaching my kids, homeschooling them, like in English, it would have an English exercise. It's to help you grow, all right? So just know that exercises, though they're good for us, they can be eustress. Now, there's also dangerous or toxic stressors. This could be like chemicals, heavy metals, molds, viruses. Hey, y'all, our shampoo, our conditioner can be stressors to our body. Even emotions can be stressors. Now, we have internal stressors. So those are some of the things that may come into your body, or they may again be the emotions. Those would be internal stressors. And then there's external stressors. And I'm going to be talking more about stressors on Thursday's masterclass, What's Stressing My Body. So I'm not going to get in deep detail. I just want you to understand that stressors, whether they're internal or external, okay, they're here on the perimeter. And then our body, our threat detector is going, okay, am I safe? Is this dangerous? Or is this life-threatening? It's asking those questions. And here's the thing. Stressors are going to turn that on if it's a stressor, and it's going to say, hey, we need to be aware. All right. And that causes stress. Now, if we have stress for too much stress, okay, the stress just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming, or we have stress for too long. So we have one stressor, let's just use something like a heavy metal. And that stressor is inside of you. It's a heavy metal. If you have it for too long, it could cause the next step that we're going to talk about. Or if something happens too fast, let's say like you're in a car accident, that's a stressor that happens really fast and maybe your body can't handle it. That's when our body goes into step number 3. And this is what we call trauma freeze. Now, trauma freeze state is when our body, all the way down to the cellular cells, okay, go into this parasympathetic shutdown state. It's also called the cell danger response. All right, we're not going to get into that, but I did teach some classes last week about energy and talked about the cell danger response. So you're more than welcome to go back and watch those. They are on my YouTube channel. All right. But for now, I want you to understand that stressors are what turn on the threat detector, which leads to number 2, which is stress in the body. And then too much stress for too long, or stress that comes on too fast can lead to trauma. All right. And that's what leads to the cell danger response. And then the cell danger response, if your body is in that, those cells go into the cell danger response for too long, we will begin to see number 4, which are symptoms. And those are signs that your body is no longer adapting to stressors, which leads to number 5, disease. And y'all, disease is just a list of symptoms that are given a name. Okay? So that brings us to this first question that I have over here on the left. How adaptable are you? All right. And we're going to talk about an adaptability index in a few moments. But if you have a stressor and your body is really, really adaptable, right, you're not going to go into steps 3, 4, and 5. But if your body is less adaptable, then you may hit all of these fairly quickly. All right. So as stressors fill your cup, I like to use the fill your cup example. You may not even notice them as stressors, okay? Because your body just adapts and you move through life. So I want you to think about those times that you're sick and all of a sudden you have a cold And your body is like 1 minute it's hot, right? Your temperature changes because your body is adapting to the stressor. We're going to just use the stressor as bacteria, okay? You have an infection and your body adapts to that stressor, that bacteria, that infection by increasing your temperature to decrease the amount of bacteria. That's your nervous system bringing in your immune system to do its job. Now, I know we just call it being sick, but what it really is it's your body doing a great job at adapting to the stressors. All right. Now, also, as our gut begins to accumulate more and more stressors, we begin to kind of have this overflow and we begin to be less adaptable because your body can only handle so many stressors at a time, okay? And your body has a hard time finding what's called homeostasis, and this is just balance. And if your body isn't in balance, again, we're going to move down this list closer to that disease. Now, often our bodies are on stressor overload. Anybody ever feel like you have stressor overload? Your cup is full, but you're not quite overflowing yet, right? And I want you to think about a tree. I love trees. I love to learn from trees. And a tree can be very adaptable only for so long against a storm. All right. The longer the storm goes on, the more damage to the tree. However, the more flexible or the more adaptable, healthy the tree is, the longer it takes before trauma to the tree occurs. And you're no different. Okay. Now, here's the thing about your threat detector. All right. It uses your 5 senses. It uses seeing and hearing and feeling on the outside, feeling on the inside. It uses taste, it uses touch, and it looks at those senses to tell the body if it is safe or unsafe. If it feels like it is unsafe, it turns on an alarm. And depending on the threat, on how far and how fast you move through what I call the stress continuum. And this is what I put together just to help me at first. And then I started sharing it to help others because I want you to see how the body is working. All right. So if your body is like, hey, it's over here where the heart is, it's like, I am in the blue zone. I am thriving. I woke up. I'm feeling great. And let's say a little stressor occurs. The stressor could be 101 different things, right? But if your body's like, hey, I can fight my way to safety, you're going to move to that yellow zone, but that may be as far as you go because you're adaptable enough to move back into that blue zone thriving. Once your body fights off whatever it is, whether it's something externally, or it could be that someone sneezed, you breathed it in, it went into your body, it is now a stressor to your body, and your immune system was like, oh, I'm strong, I can take over that. Your body fights it, yellow zone, and then your body's like, oh, I took care of that, it's gone, and you go back to blue zone thriving, okay? That's a high adaptability. Your body is doing what it's supposed to do. Now, if your body feels it needs to run to safety, then a green zone may be as far as you go. And within a short time of period, you might move back into the yellow zone and then the blue zone thriving because your system is adaptable. All right. Let's just say I don't like mice. So let's say my body is very adaptable. A mouse crosses my hallway and the first thing I do is I cannot fight that mouse because I'm afraid of it. So I run to my room and shut my door. And then my body about 30 minutes later is like, okay, you're safe. All right. I can move back into that blue zone thriving. That's because my body is adaptable. Now, if your body has been in fight or flight for very long, so maybe your body is fighting some internal stressors, you've been sick, you've had some surgery, you've had just some, somebody has passed away. Like there's so many different stressors out there and your body is just feeling overwhelmed. You're in that red zone, okay? Red zone is overwhelmed. And what happens here is you're going to be a lot less adaptable in this zone because this is a chronic stressed state. This didn't just happen in a moment, okay? This is because your cup is full and it's getting to the point of overflowing, and you're going to be more reactive and less adaptable to new stressors that come in, all right? And here's the thing, if your body still does not feel like it can handle things in this overwhelm, it's going to move into the blue zone, trauma freeze, and it's going to shut down to protect itself. Your body is so amazing. It's like, hey, you can't handle any more stressors, so we're going to shut down. And this is what we call a maladaptive response. Again, this is when we begin to see disease, often diseases like autoimmune issues. All right. Now, this may lead you to the question, well, how adaptive am I? Well, first, I want you to just go through maybe any symptoms that you're having right now, any issues that you have, any diseases or diagnoses you've been given, okay? All of those are signs that your system has been less adaptive. Now, if you don't have any symptoms, you don't have any issues, you haven't been given any diagnoses, you don't have any diseases, you are more adaptive. We can tell just from that information right there. All right. Now, however, most of us like to see something that tells us how adaptive we are. So we could take a little quiz, or we could ask our body. We could use something like muscle testing, or we can use biocommunication scans like the ZytoInsights scan. There are a lot of other biocommunication scans out there, but the one that I'm currently using is called the ZytoInsights scan. And what we do is we ask our body to let us know how adaptive we are by using the scan, okay? And what it does is it comes up with an adaptability index score based on the frequency of our voice. I know that sounds crazy, but technology is awesome. I have no idea how I speak into my phone and other people can hear me. Like, I do not know how that works. Just like I don't know how my phone works, I do not understand all the technology in the ZytoInsights scan, but man, do I know and understand the information it's given me. So it takes our voice frequency, and it also uses kinetic response, which is our finger pushing a little button to let it know how quickly we are moving, because again, that's going to give us some information on stressors and how adaptable we are to those stressors. Okay. Now, what that information does is it generates what is known as a spark, and a spark is your own personal fingerprint in time. So what it does is it's taking a picture of your bioenergy, all right, at the moment of your scan. Now, I want you to know, if someone was recording a video and somebody was taking a picture, let's say at a wedding, you a lot of times have a videographer and you have a person taking photos. That is totally different, because a photo is just taking a picture of that moment, right? A video, you can see all that's going on the second before the picture and the second after the picture, and a lot can happen a second before and a second after, right? So I want you to understand that this spark is taking a picture of that moment in time. We are constantly changing, but it is also put into an algorithm which measures your body's ability in real time at that moment to adapt to a list of over 150 different common stressors. Now, let me just say, there are a lot more than 150 stressors, okay? But the 150 give us a good idea on how our body is handling stressors, all right? So now I have made up a form that I use when I'm helping my clients better understand their own personal adaptability score. And I have a link to that report that you may use to better understand yours. And I'll share that in the chat. And if you've done a scan with me, you will receive that in an email with the recording today. But I want you to understand that there's so much information we can get from this scan. And I'm looking to see, this is why I was wanting to make sure I could get to chat. So here is that. If you want to copy it, you can. But like I said, I will be sending it. It will be with this Anybody that's got the scan will get it. It won't necessarily just be with the replay. So make sure you've asked me for the scan if you want to have that. You don't need it if you don't get scanned. All right. So let me see if I can come back to this. Now, the first thing I like people to do is on the very top, I have what your goal is and any top wellness concerns you may have. This is where you can write down any symptoms you may have, any diagnosis or any disease processes, because we want to be aware. Awareness is always our first step of what is going on already in our bodies, so that when we're looking at the scan, we can get any insight to help us with those symptoms or any other issues we may have. All right. So I'm going to show you an example of what a ZytoInsights scan information is going to give you. And this is just mine. This is the one I did November 1st. All right. I usually do it at the beginning of the month or the end of the month. It just kind of depends. And this is a morning that I actually woke up not feeling so well. I had a headache, so I did a scan. And what I see first in the box on the left is what's called my baseline adaptability index score. So you're going to see a 56 in this box right here. Now, if you do the scan, you're going to have a number in this box right here, and that is your baseline overall body's adaptability score. All right. Now, the adaptability index shows how well your body is able to adapt to outside wellness challenges, aka stressors, threats, triggers. All right. When you're in a chronic stress state, you are more reactive and less adaptable. All right. So this scan gives us an overall baseline score from 0 to 100. 0 is less adaptable or more stressed. 100 is more adaptable or less stressed. What I like to tell people is 50 is kind of the normal average number. Because here's the thing, most people are stressed. All right. So remember, you're always going to have stress responses. There's always things going on. Our goal here is to see how adaptable we are to the stressors. Now, there are stressors, and we'll talk about this, like I said, on Thursday, that we can decrease, which is going to help us. But there's also things that we can do to increase our adaptability score so we can handle more. And that's what I was interested in the day that I did the scan. I want to see how, not all the whys, but how I can help my body give it some support so that it's more adaptable. All right. Now, a 56 is just barely, right, above normal. And if you know me very well, I think normal is highly overrated. And I personally like to be more adaptable, meaning I want my body to make changes as life happens. The closer to 100, the more adaptable and less stressed I am. So here's the thing. Our body is constantly needing to change, to adapt, based on the input from our internal and external experiences. I'm going to give an example. Last week, it was hot outside, okay? A healthy body adjusts to the temperature by either sweating, right? Or telling you to turn on the air conditioner, right? You're going to listen to your body when the weather is warm. And then as it has gotten colder over the past few days, a healthy body, when it's cold, will begin to shiver, all right? If it gets cold, it may also tell you to turn on the heat or to put on a sweater, right? That's how our body talks to us, lets us know, and we can make changes to become more adaptable. All right. So right now it's kind of cool in my house because it's cold outside. So today I do not have my tank top on. I have a sweater and a scarf and my fuzzy socks, right? I'm helping my body handle a weather stressor. No longer am I my body being stressed because it's not too cold. It feels just right. All right. Now, again, my score of 56 is saying that at that moment, when I took it, it took a picture of my body and I was just a little above normal. All right. And I want to be closer to 100. So let's look at what could bring up, all right, that number. And the first thing I want to look at is this triad. What does your triad look like? Okay, there's 3 parts. So what does your triad look like? If you've done the scan, you're going to be able to see a triangle on your scan too. All right, just like mine here. And what I can see on this slide is emotional is in this dark blue, functional in this lighter blue, and then energetic in this green color. And I've been teaching for years about the spiritual, emotional, and physical beings. I want you to know those correspond great with these, okay? They just call them energetic instead of spiritual, emotional, and then functional instead of physical, but it's the same thing. And I personally believe our spiritual being is our energetic. It's our life force, right? And every culture and religion has a different name for it, but I believe it's the part of us that lives on after our physical body is no longer here. I also believe our spiritual or energetic being, whichever you want to call it, plays a huge role in our emotional and physical health. And so when our energetic number is low, we feel it. When it's high, we feel it. When it's out of balance with our emotional, physical bodies, we feel out of sync. So our goal is to have all 3 as balanced as possible. Now, as much as I love that my energetic spiritual being was a 64 here, right? My lowest emotional was a 33. And you can see there is a lot less dark blue. So you can see a lot of gray and a lot less color in that 3rd part of this triangle than the other 2 parts, right? The functional is a 45. So both of those are below normal. So emotionally that morning and physically that morning, functionally, I was below normal. But energetically, I was a 64. What I want to see is for all those numbers to balance. I want them to be closer to each other. I don't want a big span between them. All right. So how do we get our baseline closer to 100 here? Is we want to be aware of where we're at in our triad. All right. So what we can do is we can begin to look at 2 areas that give us the top products and services that can support us, okay, and support you. You would look at yours to see what's going to support you. I'm going to use mine as an example here so you can see how we can do this. Now, remember, because we are energetic beings, we have frequencies, and each organ down to each cell has its own frequency. So it's using that information and comparing it to see what oils and supplements, all right, I use Young Living, so it's using the Young Living oils and supplements and their frequencies. All of them have a frequency. And then based on algorithms, again, I don't understand how they do all the math, all the algorithms, but they use the voice analysis to match it up to products that you can see in what I call area number 3. So these were mine on that November 1st day, all right, that morning. And on the right is area number 4. And it's looking at different wellness services, all right? And it's seeing what's going to match up the best. Now, here's the thing. As you choose or you use, either way, a specific product, the higher the number, the bigger impact for you, all right? So my goal is always to find the least amount of products with the greatest impact. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want 100 things I need to do for the day. I already have enough things on my plate, right? So I'm looking for what's going to give me the most impact in the least amount of product or even services, okay? Now, as much as I love my Young Living essential oils and supplements, they're tools, just like all other tools. And sometimes there are other tools that are going to help improve my health in an easier way. So I like to personally look at area 4 and compare it to area 3, which is why I put both of them right here up against each other to look at these numbers here in these boxes. Okay, these boxes are overall how they are affecting my body. The higher the number, the more my body resonates with that. The more my body's saying, me, all right? So I see that the highest number for both of these is a 94 in intimacy salt. That is higher than my highest overall number over on the left when I'm using oils and supplements, okay? So I always like to compare. I want to find the biggest number and I want to look at that and go, okay, what is that telling me and how can I use that to support me? Now, again, the highest one over here is an intimacy salt. Well, you might be like, not doing that. Well, we're not going to get into all the wellness services right now, but I'm just going to let you know that that is a service that I do for myself. Okay. It's a tool that I use. It's something that I've already have a practice with. So when I saw that, I'm like, all right, maybe that will help me feel better. Right. So it's a 94. That's pretty high. Now, I also looked over at the left and I see, you know, that Remagen and Joy Essential Oil, they are 80s. Does that mean that an intimacy salt is better than the Remagen and Joy Essential Oil? Not necessarily. It just means overall for my body, that intimacy salt is going to give me more of a greater impact at that moment. Okay. Now, there's so much that we can learn from this because remember, we also want to look at what we wrote down. So I just put this report together to show you what it looks like. For me, my goal that morning when I did the scan was to feel better and no longer have a headache so I can enjoy my day. That was my goal. All right. That's what I spoke into the phone. I also had decreased left shoulder range of motion and some pain at times. So I wrote that down. I had just finished my monthly cycle. And this is the day after Halloween and I didn't have any cake, but my neighbor had a birthday and I had a cupcake the night before. So I wrote that down. Those are all things that may help me figure out what was going on with my body and how I can support it. All right. And then I wrote down on my report, my baseline was a 56, just a little bit above normal. I want it to be closer to 100. I wrote down my emotional was my lowest score, functional, my middle score, energetic, the highest score. And then I wrote down, I like to look at the top 3 wellness services. And I wrote down the number, 94 intimacy salt, 92 chakra balancing, 88 bounce and shake lymphatic activation. All right. So you can see that I have all this information to help me figure out what's going to support my body. Now, I would like to go ahead and click. There's a little triangle that you're able to do too when you go through, or if I'm working with you, I'll click it to learn a little bit more about the different services, because sometimes we don't know about them, right? And like I said, we're not going to get into sea salt enemas today, but I do teach in my master class about information about enemas, and I have some papers to help you support yourself on knowing how to do that. But I'm going to tell you, I did do that morning, because when I see something like a 94, if I can go from a 54 to a 94, and it's going to help my body be less stressed, chances are I'm going to feel better that day, right? So that is something that I did. The next one you're going to see is chakra balancing. Now, that's something I've been trained to test on. And so that I was able to do that for myself again. I know how to do chakra testing, and I found that several of my chakras were off. And I have a tool to help me. It's called a WAVWatch that has a setting to balance chakras. And I found it works very well for me and others. Now, I also noticed that a service came up for the lymphatic system, which was an 88, which means like my body could use some support, right, in the lymphatic area. And I have a self-care lymphatic technique that I have an online course for. So I was able to do it. So I was able to look at these 3 services and go, okay, how can I support my body? Now, you may not have the resources to do these services, but you may know someone like me, or somebody else in your area that you can get in touch with. Again, this information gave me some great insight that my body needed some cleansing from toxins, right? My chakras needed some balancing. So if nothing else, I have some information to help me know how to better support my body. So that's what I think is really important about these wellness services. Not about to go out necessarily, you have to do them all, but that you get an idea of what your body is saying, hey, this could help support me, right? Now, this allowed me to move on to the oils and the supplements, all right? Now, remember, my emotional being needed the most support. It was only a 33, and the dark blue squares right here match up with the emotional part of me. And so even though I'm now not going to look at the bigger number, I'm looking specifically at how I can support my body emotionally. And what I noticed is Dorado Azul essential oil is a 95. That was the highest one in blue. All right. Now, I happen to have Dorado Azul, but if I didn't, I might look at the next one, which was Joy essential oil, and I have it. Okay. But I did have Dorado Azul. So I want to go ahead and look at how I can support my body, because a 95 emotionally is pretty good. And my body is resonating with it well, saying, hey, Dorado Azul and you could be friends today. So whenever I want to use an oil to best support me emotionally, I use this book right here. Okay. And if you know me very well, you've seen this book, you know that I love to use this book, right? So I use my Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils book. And that day I used it. And then I continue to use the Dorado Azul daily. I like to use whatever comes up, especially emotionally, for me for about 30 days. All right. Again, we're not going to have time to go all into how to use this book, but I do teach it if I'm doing one-on-one coaching, or during my Exceptional Health Masterclass, I teach this technique so that you can do it for yourself. This is a really important way we can help support our bodies, is emotional release. So I do like for people to know how to do that and understand that more. So right here, I had marked the Dorado Azul. I can check it off on my scan, and you can see that one oil brought me from a 56 to a 73 overall. So it helped my body overall, but it also brought me up emotionally to a 63. All right. Now, I don't know about you, but if my emotions can be more adaptable from a 33 below normal to a 63 above normal, that's going to be better for me and for my family. All right. And so I marked it. I have that information here. And then I'm able to go to my report and write it down. So what I did is I wrote down the changes it made, because I personally, if I'm going to use an oil every day, I want to know how it can help support me. And I can see right here, well, it's going to help you emotionally, Shauna. 33 to a 63 is a big jump. All right. It helps me a little bit functionally, but it helps me even energetically also. And again, I already told you that I marked it down for emotional, right? It's helping bring up my emotional being. And so I want to use my book. So I took my book and I wrote down on my report the emotions that I want to move from. I want to move from the emotion of revenge to detachment. The affirmation, I forgive, and the location was the pawns, the top of my head. Now, I think it's interesting because remember I told you I always want to know the information. Let's see, I thought I had a picture of it. I want to know the information that I wrote down. And one of the things that I wrote down, remember, was that I had a headache. Isn't it interesting that the emotion, and I don't know why it keeps wanting to change my page there, but the emotion that came up, revenge, is held in the top of our head. All right. So that information helps me, again, gives me some insight of, oh, this may be something I need to think about. All right. Maybe in my sleep, because I woke up with a headache. Something was going on. All right, maybe my body was trying to process this revenge. And so I needed to work on some forgiveness, right? So that is one way. I'm going to go back and show you the next part. So I wanted to go ahead and show you that real quick. So after we get here, I can see that my lowest area now is functional, right? And so I could stop with just the emotional. I had the Dorado Azul. I could say, okay, I'm good. But I want to get that as balanced as possible. And I like 100s. So if I can get my adaptability closer to 100, I know that my tree is going to be stronger and I can handle more storms, and storms are coming my way, right? So I again wanted to look at the different products, but this time in the light blue. And what I noticed was Remagen was a 96. Okay, this is for my functional physical body, and it's really resonating with the Remagen. Now, again, that's a product I've actually used in the past, but it's not something I had. So I needed to put that on my order, which is one reason why I like to do this at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, so I know what I might need for the month. So I went ahead and put that on my order. Now, what I love about the ZytoInsights scan, again, is that I can go ahead and click on the arrow and learn more about the product. Okay, so I see here that Remagen is for cleansing and rebuilding and enhancing digestion. It even tells me how much to take. So here I put it on my November order. I mark it down, and I can now see with the two products, my baseline is now a 90. All right, my emotional score is a 70, my functional is a 72, and my energetic is an 80. With two products, I am supporting my body, and my adaptability, my body to handle stressors, is doing better. And then I go ahead and put this all down in my report, so I have it all on one sheet. Okay, how often do you like, oh, I need to do this oil, it'll help support me, and then we forget the next day what it was or how to use it? Okay, so I have this all on one page. And so I can now see if I do Remagen, it is going to help support me emotionally, it's going to help me functionally, it's going to help me energetically. I need to do 3 half dropperfuls, about 3 milliliters, 3 times daily in distilled water just prior to or with meals containing protein. Okay, now I have a plan. I know what I can do to support my body. Now, when I see things like toxins and digestion, and I'm thinking of the holidays, I know this is something I may want to be doing throughout the holidays, right? Now we get to the next one. I look again, I'm like, okay, is there anything else that can help bring me to 100? And for me, the lowest area was still emotional. And so I looked to the next one, and emotional was a 93 for joy. So I'm able to go ahead and mark it. And when I mark it, look at that. My adaptability score has now moved to 100, and all 3 areas are balanced with 81s. Okay, and I'm able to add this to my report. Now, I can't promise that you're going to be able to find 3 products to get to 100, but I would say at least 75 to 80% of the time that I work with clients, I can help you get 3 products or less to get you to 100. All right, and how I do that is what I just showed you right now. Sometimes it's the top 3 products on there, but not always. I look at what areas need the most support. All right, and now I'm going to use that joy emotionally, right? It's what brought me from a 70 to an 81. So again, I'm going to get my book out and I'm going to look. Now, the interesting thing was with joy, there's about 7 different emotions that the joy essential oil can support. And so I was like, okay, well, let's look to see which one both best resonates with me. And y'all, what I saw was the solar plexus, and that is one of the chakras. And interesting enough, when I had tested my chakras, my sacral and solar plexus were both out of balance. All right. So now I know that I can use the joy each day on my solar plexus as I say the affirmation, I am discerning. All right. So now, like I said, I have a plan daily. I have it on this sheet. I keep this sheet usually in my bathroom because that is where it is where my oils are that I use daily. All right. And I hope you can see that this information helps support my body through the holidays. I'm going to use this through November. Some of them I may continue depending on how my body feels. Around the 1st of December, I usually will do another scan and see what comes up. All right. Now, this is helping me be more adaptable. This is what I call self-care. This is me showing you how to put together a self-care plan. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We're constantly changing. And the more adaptable we are to the stressors, the easier it is for our body to return to a less stressed state. Now, again, we're not always aware of the stressors that are affecting us. So using something like this ZytoInsights scan can give us insight if it's our emotional, our functional, or our spiritual bodies that need more support. What we could see is Shauna needed more emotional support. That did not surprise me. All right. I have 2 emotional oils to utilize, and I have 1 supplement to help support with cleansing. Okay. My body kind of sucks up the toxins, right? And so I need ways to help clear that out. I have a product right here to help me do that. Now we can see what products and what services can benefit us the most. And again, you can see that it took 3 products for me to move from a normal adaptability score to an exceptional adaptability score. And also the services that I was able to look at and utilize, I used 2 that day. And then the next day I did the lymphatic technique. Okay. I hope that this information is helpful for you. Again, if you've already done the ZytoInsights scan, you can print off that report and write down what's going to best help you. And then you're going to notice that report has a second page, and I'm actually going to go over that second page on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. All right. And what that is going to do is going to help you to better understand what's stressing your body. All right. And it may not be what you think it is. Right. So you're going to see which of your body systems are most stressed. Anyone curious which of their body systems are most stressed? You're going to learn what are your top stressors. All right. And that's actually my favorite information to know. We just went through the easy stuff today, but the stressors are where I like to go. So we're going to dive deep on Thursday on that. And then which stressors to start with, because you may have a lot. Okay, we live in a stressor-filled world, and that's why our bodies are stressed. And when we can find ways to increase our adaptability, the stressors that come our way will not affect us the same as when our adaptability is lower. Remember, the more flexible, the more adaptable the tree, the more storms it can handle. All right. So do we have any questions? Because I know that's a lot of information that I've sent you there in this hour. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And then if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.